Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you the difference between the Shimano Ultegra R8070 and the 8170 caliper, the flat mount caliper. So if you was thinking of purchasing the newer 8170 to replace your old 8070 calipers, then I'll just go ahead and show you the differences. So here we have the Ultegra R8170 caliper, and this is the outgoing version, so to speak, the 8070 Ultegra. So the main differences on them is to do with the bleeding. Obviously there you used to bleed it there, remove that, put your hose on there, and then use your spanner to unlock the bleed nipple there and then do it back up again. And then now you've got the hose under that cover, you put the hose in there, and then at the back there under that cover you got a 3mm hex to undo for the bleeding. So you got two different ports there for the bleeding instead of the one. Now another thing on the caliper is the screw pad retaining screw there. As you see on there, it's a flathead screwdriver slot, and on the new caliper it's a 3mm hex. Now if this was a Dura-Race version, then they still use a flathead screwdriver on the even on the newer ones. If this was Dura-Race, so on the Ultegra they use that 3mm hex on there instead, which is a better idea. And like I always say, take that pin out. Even if your caliper's brand new, take that pin out. On the thread of it, put some anti-seize grease on there, and then put that back in, because if that gets seized in there, then you'll have a problem, and many of them do over time, get seized into the body and you can't get them undone. So at least now they've put a decent hex on it. The pads, see there, these are resin pads in these. The pads are the same, exactly the same pads. So I'll take them out and just show you. So there we have the pads as they were before, and there we have the ones now. They're exactly the same part number. So they are exactly the same. So there's no difference in them at all. Also, the spring in the middle, which obviously keeps the pads apart a certain distance. You'll see it's a spring, so when you break in and you let go, it helps push the pads away from the disc rotor. Same on both. That spring in the side is exactly the same, so I'll just show you that. So there's the spring, the new one, there's the old one. They're identical, exactly the same, like that. So that's what's keeping your pads away from your disc rotor as well, helping keeping them apart. So they're identical whips, the springs, so there's no change in that. So your pads will be exactly the same distance away from the rotor as they were with the 8070 caliper, as they will with the new one. There won't be any difference in it, and if there is, you're not going to notice it at all. So on the 8170 caliper now, the bleed block looks like that. So it goes in from the top in there, and then you put your retainer through there, just hold it in place on this one. Whereas before, what you used to have to do, the bleed block looked like that before, and then what you had to do with that was, when the caliper was on the bike, you slide it up from underneath and it slotted in, and then you used to put your retainer through the top like that. So the distance, the gap inside there between obviously where your pads are going to go in, and therefore the clearance against your disc rotor is exactly the same. So there's the old style bleed block that you used to put up from underneath, and that fits straight in there exactly as it used to in the old caliper, like that. And then if there was more clearance in there, this gap would be wider than the outgoing caliper. Obviously you'd have to have more room for the gap between the pad material and the rotor, so you need to create more room in here for that. So see, there's the new bleed block in the new caliper, there's the outgoing caliper, so to speak. The bleed block goes in there exactly the same, there's no difference in them. That fits in there the same as in there. There's exactly the same width across that body there, so there is no more clearance there between anything. So what I've done is cut a piece of hard plastic down there and fold it down so as it fits into the caliper there, like that. So that one fits in there, you can see there, slots in, and the gap is exactly the same on the new one. That one, that will just slot in there like that, the same. So therefore the gap is, there's no difference in that gap there. So another difference on them is just the pistons there. Now they're now black in colour, and they've just got a slightly smaller dish in the centre of the piston now than they had on the previous one. They look like that before. So just the dish in the middle is different on them, and obviously the colour of them, but they're still exactly the same diameter as they've always been. So the pistons, there's no change in the diameter of the piston. For comparison, there's a mountain bike caliper there, which is exactly the same piston size there as that. So they're all the same, 22mm piston. So here we have the 8070 caliper with the pads and the bracket. So that's 142 grams. So we have the 8170 caliper with the bracket and the pads, 140 grams for that. So for anyone wondering, with the 8170 caliper, if you're using the old 11 speed hydraulic shifters, Di2 or manual cable, does it make a difference having these calipers to the lever throw of the old style levers, the 11 speed lever? And the answer to that is it makes no difference whatsoever to the throw of the lever. There, it's exactly the same as it was before. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.